Microphones and minefields when Brendan Schaub crossed Joe Rogan. You ever watch a podcast and suddenly feel like you're intruding on a conversation that just went one sentence too far? Like someone forgot they were being recorded and said the quiet part out loud? That's the tension we're diving into today. The Joe Rogan Experience isn't just a podcast, it's a cultural juggernaut with a velvet rope guest list and an unwritten code of conduct. Once you're inside Joe's circle, you can ride that wave for years, unless, of course, you start stepping on landmines. Enter Brendan Schaub, former UFC heavyweight, stand-up comic, and podcast hustle king. Brendo, as the locals call him, has been a consistent JRE guest, but also a frequent flyer on the "Did he really just say that?" express. From questionable jokes to bro code violations, Brendan's had more than a few moments where he nearly got himself ghosted by the king of Spotify. Today we're breaking down 5 times Schaub said something Joe Rogan didn't like, and how it disrupted the dynamic of their bromance in ways that fans, and probably Joe himself, couldn't ignore. Let's talk about what happens when being just boys on air crosses the line, and how close Brendan came to a one-way ticket out of Rogan's inner circle. Let's start with the real origin point, the moment a lot of people think created the vibe between Brendan and Joe. Back in 2014, Brendan had just taken a rough loss in the UFC. Not long after, he sat down with Joe Rogan and Brian Callen on The Fighter and the Kid, and Joe hit him with one of the most infamous interventions in podcast history. He looked Brendan dead in the eye and told him, "You don't have it anymore. You shouldn't be fighting." It wasn't about comedy, it was about CTE, long-term damage, and knowing when to hang it up. Joe's words were blunt. "You're too smart for this. You're not gonna be champ. It's time to move on." Brendan took it hard, but to his credit, he pivoted into podcasting and comedy. That was a pivotal point, not a rift. But it set the tone. Joe would be honest, and Brendan would have to learn to handle it. But in 2021, the roles flipped. Brendan started spinning COVID-19 conspiracy takes a little too freely, talking about masks being theater and vaccines being hype. Now, Joe's no stranger to controversy himself, but he still prefers nuance. During a JRE episode, Schaub barreled into an anti-vax talking points with all the subtlety of a spinning back fist. You could see Joe physically pull back, correcting, rephrasing, sidestepping. Reddit lit up afterward. Quote, "Joe looked like he wanted to eject." Some fans even suspected the episode had been edited. That kind of heat, Joe doesn't love it. It was one of the earliest moments where Brendan seemed more liability than hang. Fast forward to the now infamous moment when Brendan crossed an unwritten bro code boundary. The time he joked, emphasis on the quotation marks, about Joe cheating on his wife. During an episode of The Fighter and the Kid, Brendan dropped a casual line that implied Joe may not be faithful. He tried to laugh it off, but the internet didn't. Clips went viral, Reddit exploded, and Brendan noticeably didn't appear on JRE for months. Even if Joe publicly didn't respond, the silence was everything. In Rogan's world, personal life is off limits. You can talk politics, drugs, aliens, whatever, but bros don't say that, not even as a joke. Brendan knew it too. His body language in the clip was half laugh, half "I messed up." That moment across the line, not a joke anymore. That's when fans started asking, is Brendo getting cut off? And yet another rough patch was when Brendan once made a tone-deaf comment about female MMA fighters, saying they're only marketable if they're attractive. Joe, who's publicly praised fighters like Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko, and Rose Namajunas, shut that down cold. Quote, "That's not really fair, man," he said, visibly annoyed. And when Joe stops laughing, that's when the conversation starts dying, and so does your invite. And then, of course, there's the drama with Bobby Lee and Kalila. Brendan implied they were behind a harassment campaign against him. Joe never addressed it on air, but insiders picked up on the tension. Bobby and Joe go way back, and bullying someone like Bobby, who's vulnerable and respected in the community, looked bad, really bad. It wasn't just drama, it was a hit to the social ecosystem Joe protects. Brendan's absence from the podcast during that window felt intentional. And finally, there's the hypocrisy grenade. During one of his more recent appearances, Brendan claimed concerns about CTE were overblown by the media. Joe, who's interviewed dozens of scientists and fighters on brain trauma and openly talks about the dangers of MMA, didn't let it slide. "That's irresponsible, man," he said, straight-faced. The energy turned cold. The episode ended fast, no laughs, no bro chuckles, just a vibe check and a warning. So where does all this leave old Brendo? Somehow, someway, he's still standing, still getting booked, still calling Joe my boy, but how many more clips can he survive? In Joe's orbit, you don't just get cut off with a big announcement, you just stop getting calls. One day you're a regular, the next, you're a ghost. Ask Carlos Mencia, ask Chris D'Elia, ask Ari Shafir, who had to take a sabbatical after a Kobe joke gone horribly wrong. The JRE dojo has a high tolerance for chaos, but a low tolerance for disrespect, desperation, or disloyalty. And for Brendan, the line's been danced around too many times. He's safe for now, but one more sideways comment, one more breach of the code, and Joe might finally hit unsubscribe permanently. If you're enjoying this kind of breakdown, make sure to like, drop a comment, and hit that subscribe button. Ring that notification bell so you don't miss when we drop deep dives like this one, because in a world of open mics and open mouths, someone's always saying too much, and we're here to catch it.